Bene, buongiorno a tutti, bentrovati ancora. Cambiamo completamente, visione, passiamo dalla storia del dirigibile Italia a parlare direttamente con chi nell'Artico vive davvero. Oggi abbiamo il piacere di ospitare Nagell, Ylvisåker, che perdonerà la mia pronuncia, pessima, e anche con Aki-Matilda Høegh-Dam. Very sorry for my pronunciation. Ma andiamo a chiedere a loro come effettivamente questo cambiamento nell'Artico, sotto tutti i punti di vista, primariamente da un punto di vista ambientale, impatta però sulle popolazioni che abitano in questa colossale, enorme regione. Teniamo conto che in Artico, grosso modo, quindi oltre il circolo polare artico, abitano più di 4 milioni di persone, quindi tra Alaska, Canada, Groenlandia e in generale tutte le coste russe e ancora altri paesi. Oggi ospitiamo questi due ospiti, che sono Nagell Ylvisåker, è una giornalista norvegese che abita alle Svalbard da 15 anni, che ci racconterà come anche il turismo sta impattando, sta cambiando completamente l'economia, il lavoro e la vita della popolazione di queste bellissime isole. E invece andremo a indagare con Aki-Matilda Høegh-Dam come la Groenlandia sta affrontando questo momento storico davvero importante. Lei è la più giovane parlamentare del Parlamento danese, dato che la Groenlandia, che è una nazione a sé stante, fa parte del regno di Danimarca. Thank you being here. We are very welcome to Lynn and very welcome to Aki-Matilda. Thank you being here. We want you to go deep into the Arctic topic. We just don't want to see as a geopolitical topic, because we know that in this region, in this very giant region, there are a lot of people living there. So I'd like to start from a different perspective, not from a maritime political view, but I want to start from tourism. The Arctic is a new exotic, so everyone wants to go to the Blue Lagoon in Iceland, and everybody wants to see the snowy forest in the Lapland and so on, because it's a very beautiful place, and we think about the Arctic as something mystical, something magical, but there are a lot of people living there. So please, Lynn, how tourism is impacting the Svalbard Islands?
Well, tourism in Svalbard has grown very much the last decades. I came there 15 years ago, and the city has changed a lot since then. So Longyearbyen used to be an old mining community. So it was based on mining, and a lot of people were working in the Norwegian mine. Now the biggest mine that was the biggest Norwegian mine is closed down, and they're demolishing the whole site. We have a small coal mine left, and now more and more jobs are in tourism. So it's a different kind of different kinds of people working there, more foreign people working in the tourist industry, and there's a lot of people coming and going. So it's a different speed in the society. So there has been big changes, and now a lot of the industry here in Svalbard are in big crisis because of the COVID-19. So we have almost no tourists now. So we see very well the impact or how big the tourism industry has gotten up here.
Well, I can imagine also that everything it must change because of from a mining site to a touristic place. I guess that all the tourists will need restaurants and bars, and also specific maybe hospital and so on, so infrastructures. So how the Svalbard is going to develop something in this way?
Well, there are large discussions now because the tourist industry grew so fast. It grew faster, and I think it got bigger than the Norwegian government really wanted. And so now there are coming new rules on like certification of guides. They're seeing if there should be some restrictions of the sizes of ships to come in and other things because the infrastructure is not built for having this many people in the town. And the hospital had problems when the big cruise ships come in. We have only a small hospital they can keep you alive until you're sent with ambulance planes down to the mainland, but they cannot have a lot of patients at the same time. So when we have big cruise ships and a lot of people coming in, then we have a problem.
I guess so. So the news from yesterday is that Longyearbyen will shut down its coal-fired power plant. So in a world where green activities and environment has been a very important topic for all the planet, the Svalbard Island live this paradox between the environment needs, the tourism, and also being a very important mining place historically. I mean, how also can the people who is employed in the mining industry can be reallocated in the tourism if possible?
I don't think they can, and I don't think they wish to be. So now we have to see. We're living in this paradox. Svalbard is one of the regions in the world which is warming the fastest because we lose the sea ice during wintertime quickly and before other places. And at the same time, we have now the coal power plant who is making us have a big CO2 footprint each person living in Longyearbyen. And we have the tourists coming up. Everything they eat, everything they need is it's coming by planes or boats. So that's not good either. And now the message came that the Norwegian government, they want to build a new power plant in Longyearbyen, which is really needed, both because of security and it's old, it's expensive, it's not that kind of stable anymore, and a lot of people want it to be greener. And now there are discussions about the coal mine, what will happen to them and the Norwegians living here. There are mostly Norwegians working in the mine, and there are a lot of foreign people working in the tourist industry. So that will change the population. And also the people working in the mine, they say that most of the coal is going to European industry to make like parts of steel, which is still needed today. So they say, okay, but is it better to import this from other places, or should we take out the coal here until it's empty, or to have some kind of local industry instead of importing gas or something else to Longyearbyen?
Also,
for power and
you were telling me that the second population in Svalbard are not Norwegian, right?
Norwegian. They're mostly Norwegian, but now I think about 37% of the people living in the Norwegian settlements in Svalbard, they are not Norwegian.
Just completely different from Greenland instead, where where the indigenous people are, of course, a majority. So, Aki-Matilda, how Greenland is trying to manage this current situation, because you are now on the peak of the interest of all the world, I guess. Greenland have never had this incredible interest. So how this changing situation is impacting also the life of the people?
Well, if you're thinking about that, the American president in 2019 called out Greenland in order to purchase our land. Um, COVID-19 started pretty much right after. So we haven't experienced a growth in tourism in correlation to that. Uh, so we're gonna see how that is going to develop. But a lot of Greenlandic people wants to develop the tourism industry and have begun so. Um, but it is a complex situation, just like Ina said, with the hospitals and many other things. You know, everything is connected, and we have to take account for that too.
Well, I've seen that you are the youngest member of the Danish Parliament, right?
Yeah.
How you see that maybe also a new generation could try to manage in a different way from the past, the future of the region.
Um. Well, it's a pretty hard question, so I have to reflect a little. But I think that the younger generation is much more aware of climate and the importance of preserving it. Uh, so there's a whole new movement going on all over the world and in the Arctic regions where the youth are coming forward and talking about the importance of climate and biodiversity. So if we're going to develop in any way or shape or form, even with tourism, we should have the environment and biodiversity in mind, and that can be a problem if we think about a lot of small places like Iceland had a they had problems with the preserving some of their places and preserving peace in some of their villages uh, because the tourism was just so big in Iceland, right? So in order for us to find that balance, I also think we have to start talking about there are 50,000 people in Greenland. That's very not a lot compared to the millions of people living together in places like Europe. And still, it is these 50,000 people that knows how to live in the Arctic and Greenland area. We've experienced when a lot of tourists come here, they try to like climb the mountains, experience something, but then they can't get back down. So what typically happens, or they get injured, so a helicopter plane has to go to the mountain to get them, which cost our society money because we pay for it with our taxes. And afterwards, the hospital also, which we have only six um, hospital beds with intensive care. So even
You
already
said six,
there,
right?
yeah. So already
Okay.
there, we have to think about these things if we want to develop as a tourist nation. What is going to be different from the youth? I believe the major difference is going to play in the impact of the environment.
Well, you said also the investment, so is the key word because of the infrastructure and not only for the tourism, of course. So Greenland is more frequently associated to investments, and not only from the Greenlandic side, neither from also the Danish side, but we have seen that the last years a lot of times Chinese investments in Greenland instead of probably American investments to control the area, but what the Greenland wants.
Well, Greenland wants to do its due diligence, and Greenland wants to make sure that the best for its people and the Greenlandic Arctic area is preserved well in a well manner. So that doesn't mean just excluding people, but it does mean managing who owns the companies. That's a different story. So investment can still be made, as our Minister for Economy also, or Minister of the Finances also said, money in itself doesn't stink. but we have to talk about how we manage it. So, making our due diligence is what is important here, not excluding different countries from wanting to invest, but let's talk about what this investment means for Greenland and the Arctic.
Do you both think, well, first we can start with Lynn, natural resources, not only oil and gas, of course, but also rare materials are now seen as a new El Dorado from the Arctic. So do you really think that you could start a race for the resources in the region or not?
I don't think so, and I really hope they will stay where they are now. And here in Svalbard, a lot of the nature will now be protected. They're talking about making like new protected areas, trying to protect ecosystems, trying to see where tourists should be, how many people could land on different sides to preserve the nature. And also there's also a lot of talking about circular economy. So they've been trying projects here now when the mining Society of Svea is closed down. They try to use materials, houses, to see can we take them to Longyearbyen and use them here instead of taking all these materials and things from the mainland to Svalbard. So there are a lot of thoughts going on, a lot of things going on, because people are much more aware of climate change and the impact that both industry and tourism has on the nature and the climate. Because to me it was we have seen that the climate had changed and it's getting warmer, but it's like you hear it, you see the facts, and it's kind of the intellect side of you that understands what's happening. But then in 2015 we had a massive avalanche who came into the city of Longyearbyen, into 11 houses. 2 persons died, a small girl and a family father. And this was kind of how my and several other people's feelings got connected. So I think we have to talk about this. We have to connect like intelligence and feelings, talk about climate change, talk about preserving the nature, talk about how we can be tourists in the future. I know there are scientific programs on that now. What is the perfect tourist? How can a person go to the Arctic and not make a big massive footprint that is not good for the Arctic or for the planet? And so when the COVID-19 came, I really hoped that we would see some kind of change, that something would happen when a lot of people didn't travel that much, when we started to think a little differently on breathing and being in our lives and staying in one place for a longer time. Planning. So I think something needs to be done.
Of course, and I agree, because what is happening now in the Arctic is impacting also all the other region of the planet. And I live here in Genoa in Italy, of course a completely different environment and a very completely different climate instead of the Svalbard or Greenland. But in my city, in example, in the last 10 years we've been impacted by 2 very impressive floods which has devastated the city. So we perfectly know how much the climate change also and the strongness of these events could impact on our lives. So I have the same question to Aki-Matilda for the natural resources. Like Greenland has seen as something very beautiful, it's a very beautiful place to invest for the future. So do you think that this nation could start a new era, or could also be only passive?
Starting a new era in terms of
mining, of investments of this side, or maybe not?
I think there's going to happen something, but quite what I'm not sure. At the moment, there are um, talks about opening the mining in South Greenland, and from political perspective, the important part is that we have a bigger discussion about it in the people, and that we have a bigger participation in the discussions. Because if we choose to open the mining in South Greenland, it's gonna be very, very huge. It's gonna be open in. It's gonna be a mining that's gonna run for like 30 years. Uh, but as far as I am informed, this mining is going to um, have already plans to export its products for green renewable energy. So it's more for windmills, it's more for electric cars, it's more for, so that is going to be a priority if we do decide to open that mining, that the mining produce is going to go for investing in a greener future for the whole world. So it's not only going to um, well, that, as far as I'm concerned, that is the priority. But the important part at the moment is for the people of the Arctic that lives in Greenland, for us to decide together if this is what we're gonna use like 35 years ahead of our time with. Um, because what we have also experienced from around the world is when you open a big mining scaling project, and if the people is 50-50 on whether they agree on it or not, it's going to be more unstable. So we have to make sure that the Greenlandic people have a wish and the ability to see that this and the way that it's going to run will actually benefit green investment, green future, and it's going to be done in a way that doesn't hurt or harm the biodiversity and the people. And if not, I don't think they're going to agree on it.
Do you think that this kind also of balanced investments could help a possible complete independence of Greenland?
Balanced investments, yeah.
I
I
mean,
think that,
from the green side, but also because you are now independent, autonomous at all, but not at 100%. So if you really want to reach a complete independence, of course, you will need a strong strong economics, and also for the energy and for the investments, and everything should be done just on your own, but also for the security. So you think that you could also invest in something that is, of course, a green industry, but also you will need something more structured than tourism.
yeah, well, in terms of economy, first of all, our biggest export product at the moment is fish. And the thing is that a lot of our fish products are moved to Denmark, where after they are shipped from Denmark, and in Denmark the value increases. What we need to do is increase the value in Greenland, so transfer pricing with the middleman of Denmark doesn't happen. It's not always about just getting more investment, it's also about how to make the things you have at this moment better for your country. What is important here also, for example, if you look at the fish halibut, the world's biggest exporter for halibut is Denmark. But halibut doesn't exist in Denmark, only in Greenland. So in that term, we can already see a huge difference. It's not about Greenland becoming independent because of the economy. No, Greenland is going to become independent because of its people, and the economy is going to follow with it because of the structural changes and the decolonization changes that's going to be made within it. And in terms of investment, it's going to be a lot about fisheries still. It's going to be a lot about tourism, and perhaps if the people decide, it's going to be also mining. So that's going to be one of the different things. And I do believe that we can still have a healthy economy with small businesses. So people that start businesses up, for example, we have a lot of musk ox, and a lot of people make musk ox wool from these musk ox. You know, small businesses all over Greenland from Greenlandic people themselves is going to be a key factor here also for our exporting products, because we're going to make these things anyway, and now we have to find a way for also other people to enjoy it without creating any harm in biodiversity or making it a big, you know, industry just for the industry's sake.
Have you seen an increase, well, any increased relationship between Greenland and all the other regional partners in the last, I don't know, 5 years? Example, Iceland.
Well, Iceland have had its representation here in Nuuk for quite some time now, and the cooperation between Iceland and Greenland have been consistent over the years, I would say. Um, the what have increased is actually the cooperation between major countries. So countries like the United States just reopened their consulate here in Nuuk, and countries from Europe are taking much more contact with Greenland. So we have like France, we have bigger countries like you know, Germany trying to see what's going on and trying to have a closer relationship with Greenland. And this is what have changed. What we are also interested in is what you also pointed is it's our neighboring countries. So, for example, the Canadian Inuit from Nunavut, for example, I can understand what they're saying, even though they speak a different language. That's how similar our languages are. And even our culture, the way we are with each other socially, our morals, our values are very much alike. If we have to create a political atmosphere that is successful, not just something we copy from a different culture that's not going to work in our culture, in our society, in our democracy, geography, we have to look at the neighboring countries and see what are similarities, what work for you can work here, what work for us might work for you. So these cooperation have to be strengthened, but in the last couple of years, what has been strengthened is the ties with the bigger countries.
Well, you said several times cooperation, and we know that Arctic is a place where cooperation is working. And it's something very typical, something very unique. How much the cooperation you think is working, Lynn, also because the Svalbard Treaty is something very important in the history of the region, and not only. Well, Russia and Norway share the same territory in some cases, and so when we look at the Arctic as a geopolitical topic, we can see a lot of new military expenditures from all the Arctic states, and especially from Russia. But how much you see that something is impacting or not? Because I can read something on newspaper, and Russia is becoming a very important geopolitical actor in the region, and so Washington probably will do something too. But I want to know more from your side. So is something changing or not? Also from by an atmosphere. Are you scared of?
No, I'm not. I'm not scared. So I don't think people in Longyearbyen or Svalbard are scared. We're used to having a Russian neighbor. So Svalbard is Norwegian, but yeah, the Russian company can run Barentsburg like it's doing. And to me, it feels more like we are talking more with our Russian neighbors now than we did before, as a normal person living there. And also maybe because also in Barentsburg they have more tourism now, so they have also started to build up tourist business, and they need all the people are coming to Longyearbyen because we have the only airport. And then they are shipped or go by snowmobile to Barentsburg. So there are a lot of guides, people coming from Barentsburg to Longyearbyen. We didn't have that much interaction before. And also it's easier to speak to the people living in Barentsburg when there are more people talking English than it used to be. But then again, it's a little bit like Longyearbyen. The culture kind of changes when you go from being a coal mining town and over to tourism. So you lose a little bit of the culture when you just use it as a stage to show the tourists what this is and what the culture used to be. Yeah. So, but I don't think people here are afraid or thinking very much about geopolitics. Yeah, as a journalist, I think it's really important, and there's a lot of things going on. But I think we have a good relationship on the island with the Russian neighbors.
And I completely agree with you. So the other question is, how much you think the Svalbard Islands has changed in the last 10 years?
It's changed in every way a lot the last 10 years because we had like I said, the mining industry who was the biggest industry in Longyearbyen, and a lot of the city was depending on it. A lot of people from the northern parts of Norway worked there, and now this stone is kind of pulled out of the society. We don't know how long we will have the last small coal mine in the town. So now we have more hotels, more tourists. We have a lot of small, the big tourist companies and smaller companies. Some come and go, some stay. We have a discussion on how can we make the tourist industry more stable so that it provides people who really wants to live in Longyearbyen for a long time, because that's a problem here, that people come and go a lot. I think the average time for a person living here is 5 years. So that's really not much. And then there's a lot of talk about science. We have a university center here. We have Ny-Ålesund, this international research station further north. So there's a lot of talk about what Longyearbyen should be in the future. And yeah, I guess it will change a lot from now as well, because we're still in the process of finding out what it will be. And it's also, yeah, special. We have a local democracy, but we're also dependent on everything that happens in Oslo. So it's kind of the government in Oslo, they're really deciding what's going to happen here. And there are kind of conflicts between, okay, if we want to preserve the nature, making big national parks, that's, yeah, we have to protect the nature. But then people are scared that we want to protect the nature because there are coming a lot of people, a lot of tourists here, going around everywhere. But if the local people aren't allowed to go out in the nature like they do, or visit the cabins like they used to, and have this feeling of being free in the nature, for many people, the reason living here will then just disappear as well. So yeah, there are a lot of discussions going on.
Well, another discussion also could come from this pandemic situation, because this year without any tourists, also for Italy, you just can imagine how much it's impacting on our economics and on our sociality. So maybe this standby year could also help to think more about this kind of managing this the tourism at all, not just a mass tourism, but also something that it could be well managed in also smaller way. So what do you think, both? We that we don't live in the Arctic, how can we tell the Arctic issue? I know it's not an easy question, but I mean, when I was living in Copenhagen more than 10 years ago, there was the Arab Spring just began. And I remember this guy who were studying in political science. He told that the problems of Italy and Egypt were quite the same. So I don't want to do the same mistakes with you. And it was very, very, very a big mistake, that one. So I don't want to do the same. So I'm just asking you, how do you think we could tell the Arctic, not being in the Arctic? What is the region we are talking about? Lynn, if you want to be first, or
Yeah, I think Aki-Matilda can go first.
I think I'm not quite sure I understood the question with going first with the Arctic situation and what kind of mistake you're referring to that we should.
I don't want to. Well, just for all the world is now looking at the Arctic on the future. So what is going on in the Arctic by now, but also what is going to happen in 5 years, in 10 years, in 15 years. So which are these scenarios? So I have this question is to you, but I'd like to know from you, what do you think is going to how to tell how is going on in the Arctic to the world? How is the answer, actually?
Well, I believe that it's a difficult question because the thing is that what the people want and what probably is going to happen are two different things. I believe that the people also, one of the reasons we live in the Arctic is because that it's much more peaceful. We love the nature, we love the peacefulness, we love the quietness, and it's in our culture and it's in our blood. It's been with us for centuries, but I think there's, whether we like it or not, going to be a major change in this area in one way. I think for Greenland at least, the new shipping routes in the Arctic is going to have a major difference with the melting of the ice. I think that there's going to be a lot more people in the Arctic than we have seen before. But exactly in one way, in what exact way it's going to affect the people is still hard to say. Our job as young politicians are that we are going to fight for the people. So we are going to make sure that the people are safe, that our biodiversity is safe, and that we try to impact the political atmosphere in a way that doesn't harm our societies. So that's one important reason. So if we talk about the mistakes in tourism, for example, we also have to talk about how many people we can have without creating a biodiversity, for example, damage to it. How many people can there be in a month, in a year, and how many people can 50,000 people take care of, right? So I think it kind of needs to be limited in one way. The question is how much. It's not a clear answer for me. I don't know if our country neighbors down south, like Italy, can have some good ideas on numbers like that, but I do hope that we're going to look at this as an interconnected thing. So more activity in the Arctic is going to happen, but it's up to us and the rest of the world to decide how much that is going to influence us all and in what way.
Perfect, thank you. So that's now your turn, Lynn. So
Yeah.
how do you think is gonna change the world from the Arctic?
How to change the world from the Arctic?
Also.
Is that your question? Yeah. Well, at first I want to say that I don't think that the Longyearbyen will grow very much. I think it will stay the same size as today. That signals coming from Oslo, and also I hope that we can think and show how we can be more circular. There are a lot of people thinking in a lot of different ways, like growth, both in the number of people and in industry. Is that really needed? And how can we find systems to avoid that and make systems that the rest of the world can use to be better? Can you see me?
Yes.
Yes, okay, because I can't see myself anymore, but then it's okay. So I hope we can do that. And Longyearbyen is also talking about exporting green energy, how to see if solar panels, hydrogen, other kind of energy systems can be tested here in Longyearbyen and then exported to Greenland and other places in Arctic to make the whole Arctic greener, so we can help each other find methods, like you said, what works, this works for us, maybe it could work for you. And I think it's important. Well, I needed to write a book to tell the stories of people here and how we are impacted by climate change and how the whole society is impacted by climate change, not only the animals and the nature, but also the humans, because I think humans in the whole world needs to kind of feel that in their hearts soon to change their lives. So I want to write those stories as well. So in Longyearbyen, a lot of houses are now demolished because they're in avalanche zones. The whole city is changing a lot. It's really a different city than it was 10 years ago. So I think there was about 130 apartments who are torn down. There are apartment buildings down in the riverside, like taller houses. Everything is changing, and we have to think about climate and climate change in society in a completely different way than was done when I came up here 15 years ago. And I hope we can tell these stories to people in the mainland, and I hope that people who come here will stay for a long time. It's better to have people coming, staying a long time when they first fly or do whatever they want, and really get the feel of the nature of the place, that they come back with some kind of feeling and knowledge that they can use in their life when they go back home. Yeah, but I also thought while writing my book, I also thought I was kind of depressed at one point, really going into the climate change perspectives and the paradoxes of Svalbard and us living here, because we don't have any indigenous people like you do in Greenland. So there are a lot of people coming here for adventure and staying here for their own, because they like it here, they like the nature, they want to go on trips. So it might be best that we all just left the island alone, you know. But then again, who would then come if Norway went, and what would happen to the island then? And of course, in the geopolitics, it wouldn't work that way. So we have to preserve the island or the archipelago as best as we can for the world. Yeah, keep the nature and energy. Yeah. Big thoughts. I'm sorry, but yeah.
No. We completely agree, of course. And so I suggest everybody to look at Lynn's website and spatial photographs. Very, very, very interesting works about the people, and not just about the nature, even if, of course, we are connected to the natures as much as we know. So I want to say thank you to you. If you don't have any other items, thank you so much. Just few words in Italian. Grazie mille a Nagell e Ylvisåker, davvero, per la sua testimonianza dalle isole Svalbard, e vi invito davvero ad andare a vedere il suo sito, davvero molto molto interessante. Grazie a Aki-Matilda Høegh-Dam, membro del Parlamento danese e autoctona della Groenlandia. Potrete rivedere questo video online sul nostro canale YouTube nelle prossime ore. Io vi do invece appuntamento alle 14:30, cambiamo completamente zona, tra virgolette, restando nell'Artico. Alle 14:30 andiamo a vedere A New European Gateway to the Arctic, il caso scozzese. Quindi anche la Scozia ha una sua strategia per l'Artico. So thank you again, and I hope to see you soon, maybe in Greenland, and I hope so also in Svalbard.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.